and they yield to the bone. They're sweet to my soul, and I'm swept away. Come on, we sing, I am good. I am good, you say I am worthy. I am worthy, wanted, loved by you. This is living, breathing proof that I am chosen, wanted, loved by you. I'm undone with love for you. There is a person that running through his hands, speaking with kindness, brimming with gentleness, and he yields to the bone. He speaks straight to the soul, and I'm swept away. I am good, you say I am good. I am worthy, wanted, loved by you. This is living, breathing proof that I am chosen, wanted, loved by you. I'm undone with love for you. And within all the joy and throughout all the waiting, I'm undone with love for you. And I could never forget the spirit that changed me. I'm undone with love for you. I'm undone with love for you. Our Father, love rushing through your veins, warm and devoted, tenderness filled with strength, and you run to the bone. You speak life to the soul, and I'm swept away. And I'm swept away. I am good, you say I'm good. I am worthy, wanted, loved by you. This is living, breathing proof that I am chosen, wanted, loved by you. I am good, you say I'm good. I am worthy, wanted, loved by you. This is living, breathing proof that I am chosen, wanted, loved by you. I am worthy, wanted, loved by you. I'm undone with love for you. You're the horizon, the bright, the glimmer that breaks the constant night. You are the brilliance, the dream, the evidence of things unseen. Even the darkest days are temporary. You are the everlasting light. All of the time and space could not contain you. You are the everlasting light. You are the glory that stays. You never dim, you never fade. You are the power, the truth, and nothing can stop you, and nothing can stop you. Even the darkest days are temporary. You are the everlasting light. All of the time and space could not contain you. You are the everlasting light. Come on, even the darkest days, even the darkest days are temporary. You are the everlasting light. All of the time and space could not contain you. You are the everlasting light. You are the everlasting light. The end and the beginning, the new reality. Outside my understanding, it's still within my reach. As far as I can see you, you're closer still to me. You are the everlasting. Come on, lift your voices. The end and the beginning, new reality. Outside my understanding, it's still within my reach. As far as I can see you, you're closer still to me. You are the everlasting light. The end and the beginning, new reality. Outside my understanding, it's still within my reach. As far as I can see you, you're closer still to me. You are the everlasting light. Even the darkest days are temporary. You are the everlasting light. All of the time and space could not contain you. Are the everlasting light. Even the darkest days are temporary. You are the everlasting light. All of the time and space could not contain you. Are the everlasting light. You are the everlasting
Hello and welcome to Mosaic. It is so good to see you today. My name is Brooke Figueroa and this is my husband.
This.
And we are so excited to welcome you to church.
That's right. And we have a prayer team that is ready and willing to pray for you at any time. So if you have a request or a prayer request, just go ahead and hit that prayer button on the chat, and an actual human being is on the other side willing to talk to you, connect with you, and pray with you.
It's one of our favorite things that we get to do during online gatherings. And that's what's so great about being together online, is that we can be together from any place in the world. So think of someone right now you want to invite and send them the link, mosaic.org/live, and invite them to be a part of church with you today.
Yes, especially because right now we're about to have a time of worship together. So go ahead and grab your coffee or your breakfast or your meal or your pizza or your dinner, whatever you're doing right now, and grab your roommates, grab your family, gather around, let's worship. Don't just listen to it, let's sing along, let's stand, let's worship together wherever you're at. Let's do it.
There is a fountain wrapped in a haze of light, flooded with goodness, rushing with words of life, and they yield to the bone. They're sweet to my soul, and I'm swept away. Come on, we sing, I am good. I am good, you say I am worthy. I am worthy, wanted, loved by you. This is living, breathing proof that I am chosen, wanted, loved by you.
you to get connected. One of the best ways to find out what Mosaic is doing and where we're going is to connect with us online.
That's right. We have tres opciones for you. You can go to Instagram and follow us there. You can download the Mosaic app, or you can go to mosaic.org/newsletter to sign up for our newsletter, and you'll be up to date with everything going on.
I love our newsletter. It's the absolute best.
The best.
Sign up right now.
That's right.
Hey friends! Our kids team has a new episode every week for you and your family. Brooklyn, what do we do?
We do a fun activity.
And what else, Liam?
We sing and
We
dance.
sing and dance, and we also talk about a story in the Bible. If you want to watch today's episode and all the episodes that we have done it before, you can go to
Mosaic.org/kids.
that's it, mosaic.org/kids. Go watch.
What's up, Mosaic? My name is John Thomas. This is Matt Pagan. We're youth pastors here, and we got some things for you.
That's right, we're calling all high school students this week. Wednesday night we have Hot Topics, and that's our Bible study. We open the scriptures, we go through life, current events, whatever's going on. And then Friday night we got Youth at Night, and that's at 9 p.m. You can get all the info at mosaic.org/youth. That's the link that you would go to, and then you can email us at future@mosaic.org. We cannot wait to see you guys. We love you guys.
Peace.
Hi, my Mosaic family. A reminder to my Latino friends, our gatherings are also specially translated to Portuguese and Spanish. For Portuguese, you go to mosaic.org/Brazil, and for Spanish, you go to mosaic.org/envivo. So if you have friends that speak Portuguese or Spanish, send them the link. I'll see you guys there. Bora lá, vamos.
Hi everyone, Mosaic College is back. I am so excited. I'm an alumni of Mosaic College, and it has truly changed my life. It is such a unique experience that brings together the most passionate, the most creative, the most committed individuals to create a more beautiful world through the heart of the church. If you're interested, if this is you, go to mosaic.org/college. The deadline is August 21st. We'll see you there.
Hey Mosaic, this is Aaron, and I'd love to share with you today about why I give. In Isaiah 32:8, it says, "But a good leader plans good things to do, and those good things make him a good leader." I love how simple this verse is and how it talks about how planning, intentionality, that's connected to creating good things, and how the whole process helps us become better leaders and better versions of ourselves. My wife and I, we're both planners, but she is a mega planner. Like, she used to carry around this giant planning, organizing calendar notebook thing and write everything down in it. But I think last year I convinced her to ditch that and switch to the phone so we could stay in sync electronically, which has been amazing. But every morning she'll ask me, okay, what do you have going on today? What's on the agenda? What can I put on the calendar? It's awesome because it helps us prioritize what is important. There's so many days where we're just winging it and we'd be lucky to get anything important done. But by being intentional, we're able to accomplish so much more. It's the same thing with our finances. We'll have a regular financial meeting. It can get pretty prickly, but there's this overwhelming peace that we have because within our budget, we've set aside a space to be generous. And by choosing to do that, that's actually the first decision we make when there are other things that any couple would argue about or have issues with or any of that. But because our first choice is always on, okay, how are we being generous this month? How are we using our resources to bless others? Because we have that aspect in our conversation, it's helped us so much. It's brought so much peace to our life. And that's what I want for you today, is that kind of peace. And so I encourage you today to give because you're not just helping yourself make better decisions down the line in your future, but you're helping create a better future for so many others to come. So you can give a number of different ways with us here at Mosaic. You can go to mosaic.org/give, or you can go to the Mosaic app and choose the give section on that and give there. I love you guys.
How wonderful, how beautiful, how permanent that you never failed me all my life. You are my resting place. You are my solid ground. Always before me and all around. How wonderful, how beautiful, how permanent that you never failed me all my life. When I'm surrounded, you by my side. How wonderful, how beautiful, how permanent that you never failed me all my life. When I'm surrounded, you by my side. How wonderful, how beautiful, how permanent that you never failed me all my life. Time and time again, you are there for me. When I lost my faith, you were faithful still. You were faithful still. You don't see my past, so I'm not looking back. You just promised me till the end you're there, 'cause you never failed me all my life. When I'm surrounded, you're by my side. How wonderful, how beautiful, how permanent that you never failed me all my life. When I'm surrounded, you're by my side.
Once again, I welcome you to Mosaic, and I can't see a single one of you. Once again, we're coming together, but we're all in our own separate locations. And I've had so many people ask me the question, when is the church going to come back together? When are we going to gather together as Mosaic? And others are a little more intense, saying, why aren't you defying the government? Why aren't you going against the oppressive state and calling us all to come back to church together? And I want to just take a moment and just tell you that, one, I miss everyone. I would love to see us all gathering, celebrating, worshiping, hugging, singing, laughing, and diving into the scriptures together. I would love for us to be able to create a space once again where people who are searching for God and trying to make sense of life and who just need healing and encouragement could come and join us. And I think it's so important, it's so critical. And I hope that soon this essential practice of gathering together will once again become our reality. At the same time, I want you to realize a couple of things. First of all, Mosaic is a part of a broader community. We do not see ourselves as disconnected from the world around us. We see ourselves as a part of the community, a part of the greater humanity. We see ourselves a part of the city of Los Angeles and the city of Seattle and the city of Mexico City and the city of Quito, Ecuador. And we see ourselves as a part of the community of South Pasadena and Venice Beach and Hollywood. And we would never do anything that would create an obstacle, a barrier between us and our communities. We want to always be building bridges. And so we're going to be responsible, we're going to be respectful, and we're going to navigate this in such a way where people across the city and across the world would really respect the choices we've made as the people of Jesus. But at the same time, we are not limited in our ability to make an impact on the world. We are not limited in our ability to bring hope and love and faith and joy to the world around us. And I think sometimes we become paralyzed by what we've lost rather than actually be mobilized by what we've gained. And we act as if we're in the worst moment in human history and there's just no way anyone could ever understand because no one's faced anything like this before. And if I could just be really, really just straight up with you guys, I think it's astonishing that anyone would describe this as a moment of persecution for the church. I know it's really, really, it feels like it's culturally almost like important to say that the church is being persecuted. We're being persecuted by the government. We're not being allowed to meet because they're against our faith. But I frankly don't believe that at all. So I just want to be clear. We're not being persecuted. And if we don't choose to be, we're not being limited. We need to gather together. It'll be a beautiful thing when we can all come together and celebrate and sing and create community and create a space for other people. But others have faced more difficult moments. And again, in this moment in the life of Zechariah, I want us to look at Zechariah chapter 8, and I want us to unwrap a strategy for this moment right now. How can we continue as a community, as a tribe, as God's people, to be the salt and light that the world so desperately needs? Let's look together. Zechariah chapter 18, I'm going to begin in verse 18. It says, "The word of the Lord Almighty came to me. This is what the Lord Almighty says. The fast of the 4th, 5th, and 7th, and 10th months will be joyful and glad occasions and happy festivals for Judah. Therefore, love truth and peace. This is what the Lord Almighty says. Many peoples and inhabitants of many cities will yet come. And the inhabitants of one city will go to another and say, let us go at once and entreat the Lord and seek the Lord Almighty. I myself am going. And many people and powerful nations will come to Jerusalem and seek the Lord Almighty and entreat him. This is what the Lord Almighty says. In those days, 10 people from all languages and nations will take firm hold of one Jew by the hem of his robe and say, let us go with you, because we have heard that God is with you." I love this description, and of all the different images in the scriptures, this might be one of my favorite passages in the entire Bible. Because it is this beautiful picture of the power of the presence of God among his people to be a light and a magnet to every nation and every people on the face of this earth. Now, the way it begins in verse 18, it may be a little bit obscure because, well, we're not used to having 4th, 5th, 7th, and 10th fasts, unless, of course, you're an Orthodox Jew. But let's go back and look at it again. It says, the word of the Lord came to me, and this is what the Lord Almighty says. The fasts of the 4th, 5th, 7th, and 10th months will become joyful and glad occasions and happy festivals for Judah. Therefore, love truth and peace. What we can know is that those fasts were not joyful occasions, that the fast of the 4th, 5th, 7th, and 10th month were actually a time of mourning, a time of repentance, a time of regret, a time of sorrow, a time where they would abstain from those things that would bring them joy. It was not a time of celebration. It was not a time of festival. And what God is actually doing, he's saying there's going to be a shift among my people, and that joy will define who you are. If we want to make the greatest impact in this time in history, We need to shift those moments that actually are times of sorrow and make them times of joy. We need to take this context, this moment that is full of so much depression and despair, and actually become the people that are defined by hope and by optimism. It's this beautiful moment where God is saying, I'm going to change the way you celebrate. I'm going to change the intention of your religion. I'm going to change the essence of your faith. Those fasts were there to remind them of their relationship to God. Those fasts were there to reconnect them to who God was in their lives. But what happens in religion over time is that the rituals take priority over the relationship. And rituals cannot become a source of joy. Only relationship can be a source of joy. And so God is actually saying to them, these rituals, these sacred moments where you step into a moment of sacrifice, a moment of sacredness to connect to me, I'm going to reinterpret for you. They're not going to be a time of sorrow. They're not going to be a time of sadness. They're not going to be a time where you are reminding yourself of what you're not. It's going to be a time of celebration. It's going to be a time of joy. It's going to be a time where you are most fully alive and you will be defined by joy. If there has ever been a time where we need to be defined by joy, it's this moment. You can almost hear the narrative as people talk about what it's like to be in this quarantine, what this pandemic has been like. And even my friends who make a living communicating optimism and who speak about having a positive posture toward life, and those who are life coaches and life strategists and work in the corporate world, they've told me how difficult it has been for them to stay optimistic, to stay joyful, to stay positive. And all of us have faced it on so many different levels. Our economics are falling apart, and for some of us, we've lost companies. For some of you, you've lost employment, and then you have the added crisis of loving your wife or loving your husband, but never knowing you'd have to spend so much time with them, and finding the challenge and difficulty there. It's as I mentioned another time, how Kim and I were having a fight, and I did the best I could to try to make up, and I said, honey, I'm sorry, I'm an idiot, which is the best way to try to bring marital reconciliation, is just to own your own stupidity. And I said to her, I cannot do this without you. And then Kim looked at me with the most sincere expression, and she said, I don't know if I can do this with you. And in that moment, I realized this is exactly what so many people are going through. You love each other. You just didn't know that when you said, until death do you part, that meant every second of every day being together. And I've talked to so many parents who love their children, but their kids are driving them insane. And I think if you interview those kids, their parents are driving them crazy too. And the reality is that we're in this moment that we just keep descending. Every time we think we're coming out of the quarantine, and then we're told, no, not yet, we lose hope. In fact, the scriptures tell us that hope deferred makes a heart sick, which means every single time our hope is deferred, every time we're told it's just until we flatten the curve, or it's just until we deal with the hospital overflows, or it's just until we're able to stabilize this pandemic, or it's just until we can find a vaccine, we just keep having our hope deferred, and it's making our hearts sick. It's making our souls sick. And what's happening is that we're losing our joy. And what this beautiful passage of Scripture reminds us of is that there needs to be a reconnection between the sacred and the wonder. Our spiritual lives should be an expression of joy. And that's, by the way, one of the best measures of spiritual vitality and spiritual health. You want to know if you're spiritually healthy? How much joy is there in your life? If you want to know if you're spiritually healthy, then begin to check the meter of depression and despair and a sense of hopelessness, of bitterness and frustration. When you dig into your soul and you find gratitude, what happens is that you begin to experience the wonder of joy. The Lord says, I'm going to take these fasts, the 4th, 5th, 7th, and 10th months, and they will become joyful and glad occasions and happy festivals. I love this translation because sometimes we think that happiness is superficial, and I actually think that God sees happiness as essential. He just knows the context of the world in which we live. He's saying that when you come back to me, I'm going to fill you with joy and gladness and happiness. And he says, therefore, love, truth, and peace. What we need to do right now when we cannot gather together is to make sure that wherever we are expressions of joy, that we're defined by joy, that we wake up in the morning and see the beauty all around us, that we look every day filled with gratitude and filled with wonder for life. Do not allow yourself to become blind to the beautiful. See it everywhere. Be overwhelmed by it. Take some deep breaths and walk outside and be overwhelmed by how good life is. And do not allow yourself to only see what you've lost. You need to see all that you've gained, all that's there, and revel in that beauty. And make every act of worship an act of joy. But then he goes on in verses 20 on down. He says, this is what the Lord Almighty says. Many peoples and the inhabitants of many cities will yet come. And the inhabitants of one city will go to another and say, let us go at once to entreat the Lord and seek the Lord Almighty. I myself am going. This is such a beautiful imagery. He first tells us that all the sacred moments will become moments of celebration. I'm going to define you by celebration. Just because we're not meeting together doesn't mean we cannot celebrate. Let's celebrate this life that God has given us. But then he says, I'm going to create you a source of rumors. Now, I live here in Los Angeles, and we are a city that loves gossip. We just love rumors. And I mean, a huge amount of social media is what's somebody doing and what someone has done and what someone said about someone else. And it's amazing how negative information travels so fast. Have you ever noticed that? That when something goes wrong, when someone does something wrong, that news spreads so fast. But what God wants us to be is he wants us to be conduits of the best kind of rumors. Is there's imagery that says people are going to come from all these cities and they're going to come from all these other nations and they're going to come and say to one another, let us go at once to entreat the Lord and to seek the Lord Almighty. I myself am going. He's telling us not only do we need to become an epicenter of joy, that we're actually going to impact the world the way that God created us, designed us, longs for us to, calls us to, is that when we become an epicenter of joy, but it's also when we become an epicenter of prayer. When we come together saying we need to call on God, I'm amazed how often we all spend our energy complaining to each other rather than actually talking to God. And here he says that people are going to come from all these cities and gather together for one specific purpose. They're going to call on God to act on their behalf and on behalf of others. Let us go at once and entreat the Lord and seek the Lord Almighty. I myself am going. Let me just challenge you right now. First of all, I'm going to ask you a question. Of all the conversations you have right now, whether it's through Zoom or whether you're texting people or emailing people or just calling them on FaceTime or going old school and making phone calls or really old school and sending letters, how much of your conversations are committed to prayer? How much of your conversations are committed to you talking to God and listening to God and you talking to God with other people rather than just talking about people? Even though we cannot gather together, we are still connected when we pray together. And I just want to just challenge us as a people that wherever we are across the world, the moment we're praying together, we are together. The moment we're praying together, we are connected together. Now, in this particular moment, it says that it came from all the cities to seek God together. Well, maybe we cannot come from all the cities to the same city to seek God together. But this moment, through the power and wonder of technology, we can connect every city in the world and be connected together as we commune with God and we talk to God and we talk to God with each other. This gives us a profound moment where we can be known across the world as the people, not only the people who pray, but the people that when they pray, God answers. And that is one of the distinguishing features of being connected to God through Jesus. See, it isn't unique that the people of Jesus pray. People from every religion pray. What the scriptures tell us is that what will make us unique is that when we pray, God hears and he acts. I always think it's interesting how many people will ask me to pray for them, and I do have people who ask me to pray for them all the time. And I will almost always pray for them instantly and then send a response back, praying for you right now, praying for you right now, praying for you right now. I can tell you that if 100 people ask me to pray for them, one of them will respond to me and tell me how that prayer was answered. And it's so frustrating to me because I don't want to, I'm very pragmatic in this. I do not want to pray for you if you're not going to take the time to tell me when God answered the prayer. Because if you don't even take the time to tell me that God answered the prayer, I don't know if you even believe that the prayers had power, that there was actually something real happening in the transaction. When I pray for you, by the way, I expect a response because I expect God to respond. What would happen if all of us not only became the people who were defined by joy, but were defined by prayer? Even people who do not know God would say, hey, I don't pray and I don't believe in God, but I need someone to pray for me. And by the way, that happens all the time. See, even people who don't believe in God, they turn to the person who does believe in God when they need someone to pray for them. We can be those people. We can be the city that's shining on a hill where the world wants to come because they know that somehow we have met God and he hears us. Let's go down to the next verses. Verse 22 and verse 23 says this, and many peoples and powerful nations will come to Jerusalem to seek the Lord Almighty and to entreat him. This is what the Lord Almighty says. In those days, 10 people from all languages and nations will take firm hold of one Jew by the hem of his robe and say, let us go with you because we have heard that God is with you. Now remember, the context of this, Zechariah is writing this in the context of oppression. There's always some oppression. For Nehemiah, it's Xerxes. For Zechariah, the context changes when whether it's the Chaldeans or the Persians or the Babylonians or the Egyptians or the Romans, the Jews were constantly under oppression. And now in this context where Zechariah is writing these words, he is actually describing the power of the presence of God in their life. Imagine if suddenly we're defined by unexplainable joy in the midst of all of this despair. If we're defined by unexplainable power in our prayers when people are just making a lot of noise on social media. What would happen if people started coming to us saying, let us go with you? We've heard that God is with you. I would love to see our church building filled with people celebrating and singing and worshiping together. But I want you to realize something, that it doesn't require a building for us to be God's people together and expressing the power of God's presence with us together. We should become the rumor of God. We need to become the rumor of God when we have joy that's unexplainable. We need to be the rumor of God that prayers are answered when we ask. We need to become the rumor of God that God is actually present with us. You know, people are always asking, well, I don't know how to talk to people about my faith. I don't know how to talk to people about God. I don't know how to talk to people about Jesus. Let me tell you, the moment you become a rumor, People will come and find you. They will come and ask you about God. And I love the imagery. In those days, 10 people from all languages and all nations will take firm hold of one Jew by the hem of his robe. It's showing a 10-to-1 ratio where one life could impact 10, and 10 lives could impact 100, and 100 could impact thousands upon thousands upon thousands, and the influence is exponential. But the influence isn't by political power, or it isn't by social media power. It's the power of presence. Listen again to their declaration. Let us go with you, because we've heard that God is with you. Imagine if someone came up to you and said, let us go with you, because we've heard that God is with you. It was just a few days ago that Kim and I were invited to go out to Santa Monica to share a meal, and it was one of those unusual moments because we're sitting there with another couple, and through the plexiglass that's dividing the booths, Kim saw this woman who was weeping. And it's always awkward when you see someone expressing a deep emotion that's a stranger. You don't know if you should ignore it or intervene. And a few moments passed, and Kim just really felt she had to go do something. And the woman had her hands in her head, and she was just sobbing uncontrollably. And Kim got out of the booth and walked over, and it's so tricky right now with social distancing and wearing your mask and not wanting to approach a stranger and be intrusive or invade their space. And Kim walked over there with her mask and just began to whisper and talk to her, and before we knew it, they began a conversation. And after several minutes, actually quite a long time, Kim came back and sat down, and she shared with us that woman had just lost her husband of 40 years. He had just passed away the week before, and that every week they would go to that restaurant and eat together. And this was her first time there, and she wanted to remember him, and she was overwhelmed by the memory and by the loss of someone she'd loved so deeply. And before we knew it, that woman left her booth and came over and began speaking to us. And just to be clear, she was not wearing her mask, and we were not wearing our masks. Suddenly all the masks were down. Suddenly there was no need for separation. We were all connected in her pain. And she started crying, but she wasn't crying because she lost her husband. She was crying because she felt overwhelmed by the unexpected kindness of Kim. Oh, because in between those moments, Kim looked at me and said, "You need to buy her dinner." I said, "Yeah, of course." And so I called the waiter over and I said, "Has she already paid for her meal?" And he asked the other waiter and came back and said, "No, she hasn't paid for her meal." I said, "Well, we want to pay for it." And so we paid for her dinner and made sure the waiter received a great tip so he would be glad that we took the bill. And never said anything to her, and that's actually what prompted her to come over. Because when she found out we had paid her bill, she began to cry and then came over, and she was weeping because of Kim's unexpected generosity and kindness. And she stayed and probably talked to us, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour, I'm not sure how long. And she just told us her story of the man she had loved and how they'd been together for 40 years and how she had just lost him, and it was heartbreaking. And she was apologetic for being so emotional, and yet she just kept expressing her gratitude. She was, "I can't believe that you came over. I can't believe you paid for my dinner. This is such unexpected kindness." And then she said, I'd like to have you all over to my house. I'd like to have all of you come to my house and we'll eat together and we'll spend time together. And Kim gave her a card and put our phone number on it, her phone number on it. And before we even got home, while we were driving home, she already received a text from her. And I was struck in the profound beauty of that moment. In the middle of a quarantine, in the middle of a pandemic, and with plexiglass separating us, with masks disguising and hiding us, there was a moment of just raw, beautiful humanity. Because there was a person like Kim that has continuously allowed joy to define who she is and refuses to keep that joy to herself, that hope to herself, that love to herself, that peace to herself, but insists on sharing it with others. It was a moment where we didn't have to go to her, she came to us. And it was this beautiful moment where we could just tell her, we would be praying for her. We had no idea what her background was, what faith she might be of, how she might feel about God or faith or prayer. But she was so receptive to the invitation for us to pray for her. It was a moment of care, of concern, of love, of compassion. And then her reaching out and saying, I want to have all of you at my house, and I'm so grateful for what you've done. It's this moment, I'm just reminded the presence of Jesus in your life becomes this irrepressible power to do good in the world. It's not our most convenient moment. This quarantine has been driving me crazy. I wish all the restaurants were open and all the health clubs were open, and I wish all the churches were open. I wish we could walk down the streets and see each other and talk to each other and be irritated by the mass of humanity locking up the highways and filling up the sidewalks. And I wish the lines were a mile long getting coffee and picking up lunch and dinner. And we're not in that moment right now. But let me tell you what moment we're in. We're in a moment where people desperately need to experience the presence of Jesus in us. And we need to walk so profoundly in the presence of God that wherever we are, Jesus is present and undeniable. Nothing is limiting you from making a difference in the world. Nothing can stop you from doing good in the world. And those of us who are the people of Jesus, let's become the rumor of God. Let's be the people where others are coming to us and saying, may we come with you. We've heard that God is with you. That's my prayer for us as Mosaic. It's my prayer for my life. It's my prayer for you. And maybe you're here in this moment, and what you need to do is step into the gift that Jesus is offering you of life and hope, of forgiveness and love. That's how you step into the presence of God, when you open up your life to Jesus and you allow God's presence to consume you, to fill you. See, a relationship with Jesus is this beautiful relational transaction where you invite God into your life and God comes to dwell in you, and then you begin to dwell in God. And it's this profound relationship where God dwells in you and you dwell in him, and his presence becomes your source of life. And when God's presence is your source of life, you become a source of life to others through his presence. So if you're listening right now, you've never trusted Jesus with your life, I want to invite you to cross the line of faith, to open up your life to Jesus. 2,000 years ago, God stepped into human history in the person of Jesus. God's presence within flesh and blood. God's presence inside of skin. And Jesus allowed himself to be crucified, buried, raised from the dead, so that we might live in the presence of God. I know for so long people would always talk about, you need to give your life to Jesus so you can go to heaven. But I want you to realize that that was genuinely a misunderstanding of the way things should be communicated. You need to give your life to Jesus so that heaven can come to you. When you give your life to Jesus, the living God, the creator of the universe, comes to dwell within you, and his presence becomes your life. And if you want that life that comes in the presence of Jesus, I want to invite you right now, in this moment, to give your life to Jesus and receive his life in you. There's a simple prayer that I'd love to guide you in. It's just one sentence, but it's the beginning of that relationship with God. And if you're ready to trust Jesus with your life, would you just pray this right now? Jesus, I give you my life. Right now, just tell him, Jesus, I give you my life. It's not everything you and God need to talk about. It's where the conversation begins. But if you are ready to live in a relationship with the God who created you, the God who loves you, the God who knows you, the God who died for you, the God who's come to forgive you, to bring you hope, and to fill you with joy, then right now just tell him, Jesus, I give you my life. This is how we win the city. This is how we change the world. One life at a time, being transformed by the presence of Jesus. One person at a time. Let's start a rumor of the reality of God so that everyone who has breath might find the hope that only he can bring. Love you guys.
Thank you, Pastor Erwin, for that incredible talk on how we can be the rumor of God. We want to be evidence of God's presence, his joy, his optimism, and his perspective all throughout the world, and it's an honor and a privilege to be led by you. If you're one of the people who decided today that you are ready to cross that line of faith, to give your life to Jesus, we want to encourage you to download the Bible app, and we have a very special next step just for you.
That's right. We want to walk this journey with you, so go to mosaic.org/follow-Jesus for more steps. And if you want to listen to more messages from Pastor Erwin or from any of our other pastors, please go to mosaic.org/messages. We can't wait to do this with you again next Sunday. We love you, Mosaic. I'll see you.
We love you, Mosaic!
May my soul be one with your soul, be one with your spirit. I